Eyes are closed. Instantly, it is not the mind is doing. Mind has nothing to do it instantly. We just become aware of the comfort, steadiness in the body, and it takes place because the senses are withdrawn from their respective objects symbolically by closing the eyes. It's a symbolic. We can do any meditation with eyes open and closed. It has nothing to do with eye. But symbolically, we do it so that all the sense organs, we become aware. Which sense organ is picking up an object so that that awareness helps us to allow the senses to live in the mind. That is another way we say the comfort. Sarvesham swastir bhavatu. Sarvesham swastir bhavatu. Sarvesham swastir bhavatu. Mind, love. If I say love lives in the mind, knowledge lives in the intellect. See other meaning, which that we will explore in Gita in the later chapters. So what has happened in our life that the mind has started dictating the intellect, and that intellect has become a mouthpiece, we say, mouthpiece of the mind with lot of preferences of likes, dislikes, joy and sorrow, and emotional bondage. That is what we discussed. So then what happens? Then the mind lives impulsively, and what we are doing? So we are putting a knowledge. Attitude of the intellect should be the knowledge, and attitude of the mind should be love. Instead, it has preferences. That is what the RSM syndrome is. Another way to understand it. Okay, then what you are doing by the mantra, we say, may there be happiness for all. So the intellect repeats, contemplates, reflects. What is contemplation? Happiness is the essential nature of everyone, all the living species. One day, what will happen, that knowledge of this intellect will be settled in the mind, will awaken to sense of emotional freedom. That is the very process of majority of the mantras. Listen to it again and again and find out in your daily life, is the knowledge settled? No. Yes. And when you find the knowledge is already settled, you take everything in the world casually, in the state of being carefree. Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu. Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu. Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu. Such a simple meaning. Average intellect can understand logically, rationally, that peace is our essential nature. But only a seeker takes the journey. Seeker takes the pain. Seeker goes with the commitment. That is another way to put it. That is why the mantras and their repetition, followed by the contemplation and reflection, are necessary. Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu. Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu. Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu. All the religions have picked up one single principle: wholeness, holiness. In all the religions we talk about this. But the mind and the intellect does not want to believe that wholeness. Until they change, we cannot enter into that spiritual domain. And that is why we have an aversion to all the religions. They have become an organized religion. Every religion, every cult, dogma, belief. So, what happens with the belief? There is a blind belief, and the mind instantly follows the blind belief without understanding. It dictates over the intellect. There comes the cult, dogma, belief, organized religions. And what is the result? We already know. So why I'm contemplating on that issue. Until the mind and the intellect undergoes a change, it reflects the clarity. It wants to know the truth. And what is the truth? The wholeness, completeness. Now here we can say religion and the Eastern wisdom are the same, but not the same as such. We inquire, we contemplate, we reflect, then we conclude. What is the conclusion? Any knowledge is the right knowledge if it leads me to peace, calmness, higher awareness, and awakening. Any knowledge that binds me into a cult, dogma, belief, and religion strengthens the RSM syndrome. Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. Let there be an auspiciousness. You know, those great masters, and also the Krishna included, we are studying Gita, all great masters, perhaps, in my understanding, they have contemplated and reflected a lot. They said, as long as this mind and the intellect are overpowered by the RSM syndrome, where to start the journey? And they are of one unanimous decision. It should start with an intellect by a thought, specialized thought, which triggers the doubt about the RSM syndrome. That is what is known as the mantra. But why I said this, especially in the last line, Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. Its simple translation is, let there be an auspiciousness for all. It means, my friend, auspiciousness is always present. We are human beings. That is one auspiciousness. We wake up in the morning alive. That is another auspiciousness and blessing and the grace by the existence. We are lucky that we are embarking on the journey of the real self. That is another auspiciousness. But the mind with the RSM syndrome, saturated in the intellect, says, no, I'm unlucky. What should I do? How should I do it? And I have a lot of stress. I have problems. So these are the dirt on the mind, in the intellect. So they simply say, forget about the dirt, be in the auspiciousness. Existence, the God, is always at our door to help us, provided we open the door. That is the meaning of the auspiciousness. And that is what the journey of the Gita is. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Bring your mind on the right hand, your mind on the left hand. Lift your both the palms. Place your on your eyes, open the eyes inside. Know your experiences. Bring the hands down. So, a journey. We should ask ourselves, do you feel and find myself in sorrow and ignorance? Do I find myself isolated because of my own thought process? We get isolated only because of our thought process. There is no other reason. Do we feel we are surrounded by the problems and difficulty because of our thought? Ask the word, did you create this problem and situation in my life? There, it is material. It is inert. How they can chase me? And then the next question comes: once I understand this, then do I want to remove sorrow, death, ignorance, opposition? If yes, then Master says, Krishna says, learn Eastern wisdom. Krishna says, believe me, you'll be free from all the sufferings from the life. And in the second chapter, in the very beginning, the first verse number 11 says, you are not worthy of suffering. You are not solving the problem of the grief, pain, pleasure, because they do not exist. But why they exist, I experience them. One of my students, who is also a great seeker like you, he always says, but I feel it. I said, don't you feel the mirror's water? Do you need to inquire whether it exists or not? I gave 200% to my girlfriend, and he used another word. She cheated me or whatever it is. So I said, what is the need of giving 200%? I'm giving you the wisdom. You don't give me 200%. So unless that idea, that thought enters into the mind of a seeker, it becomes difficult, and it should always live in the intellect of the seeker. And on that, for those seekers, the Krishna says, you will be free from all the sufferings of the life. Believe me, let us follow. Let us do the self-inquiry. If you feel it is better to blame and complain and enjoy life, welcome. Keep on doing
I
it.
realize the best
Flag.
the false thing.
But I heard what you said. And I appreciate you have labeled it as a red flag. Instantly become aware of the red flag and change the mind, change the attitude. So, knowledge is an attitude in the intellect, love is an attitude in the mind. To explain in detail, I'm going to send you today's YouTube link of the group session. I'm skipping that. That is also a part of the journey. So I'm skipping that. Let us also understand in a different way the entire Gita in the different chapters. Obviously, in one chapter, I can select few verses. In the second chapter, I select a few verses. If I collect them and I convert them into 4 phases of the entire journey. There's another way to understand. But why the Krishna taught a particular verse in the 10th or 11th chapter? Because we have to follow the Krishna. But to make you understand so that you can pick up, oh, this verse means the phase 1, this verse means the phase 2, this verse means the phase 3. Oh, that is the way. So it helps us. That is why we need a teacher too. So the phase 1 deals with the knowledge of the means to attain the goal. Did you understand? Knowledge of the means. What are the means and what is the goal? Goal is the self-discovery and awakening. And what are the means to be employed to achieve that goal has been present almost in every chapter, all the 18 chapters, but more so perhaps in other chapters. So keep your mind aware. Oh, is it this the mean? The phase 1. And you can say the second phase, we have the knowledge of the goal. What exactly is the goal? And that is what we are covering in the second chapter, from the verse number 11 to almost 25, or you can add verse number 11 to maybe 38. Knowledge of exactly is the goal. I must know the knowledge. In business, I know I project and I will be earning $5 million. So I know it, the goal. So I have a long-term goal, I have a short-term goal, I have an immediate goal. Now, as a CEO of the company. So phase 2, we should be very clear about the phase 2 is that I should have a clear understanding about the knowledge of the goal, so that I'm equipped. My mind is equipped with a burning desire to reach to that goal. Intense desire. Phase 3, that what is preventing me to reach to that goal, because the goal is already inside me, the real self, and still I'm not able to recognize it. What is preventing me? RSM syndrome, bondage, we can say limitedness, our false eye, red flag. So all those issues are discussed in detail at all levels. Gita has not left any issue at all. That is the beauty. But Krishna has put those verses at the right time for a right place. And that makes a sense. But if we analyze the entire journey, so we can have these 3 phases. And the 4th phase, I am in bondage, how to reverse the process. That is the phase 4. I feel the limitedness, how to become unlimited, how to recognize that unlimitedness. Now, at present, I'm feeling I'm bound, how to experience that, get rid of the feeling of insecurity, dissatisfaction, unhappiness in our life. Why? To live into that state 24/7. So all those 4 phases are explained in detail with reference to the 3 basic understanding, 3 categories of 6 chapters. 3 categories of the 6 chapters. The first 6 chapters, now I believe that your mind is clear. First 6 chapters, real self, individual self, karma yoga, and the self-effort. Second 6 chapters, the supreme self, or what is ultimate consciousness, what is God, you can say. And karma yoga is replaced by a meditation on that existence which we understand, that is known as upasana. And if that is all pervading, supreme consciousness, then can I receive the grace and the blessing? Yes. So Gita discusses that what is that state where we receive the blessing and the grace. It is always available to us. Always. What is preventing? Again, I told you, you have to go back to today's lesson, the group session. They are also progressing. I'm not teaching them the Gita, but I'm teaching them the basics. And they have been with me out almost now, it is the fifth year. And the third chapter, now we say, now still have a doubt. Is the Supreme Consciousness different than the real self which is in me? Let us understand it. Are they two or different? And if they are one, then I start living, thinking, and speaking my life in grace, blessing, and the existence, free from the fear of the death, free from the RSM syndrome. So do you get a certification of awakening now? For that you have to go to Harvard or MIT. It's a formal degree education because that degree, that knowledge is meant for the wealth and the pleasure. This knowledge is meant for peace and happiness. This wealth, this knowledge is meant for get rid of the insecurity completely. Fearlessness, awakening. So who will certify? You will certify. You are living into that state. There is not an iota of the doubt about that sense of the freedom. And that is why the Master started a brief summary. The verse number 11, he says, why you are grieving? You are not worthy of grieving. You should not grieve who are already dead. You should not grieve who are dying. You should not grieve who will die in the future. It's a universal law. And then he points out that you a wise seeker or a wise fool to understand this. So he moves on to the 12th verse. He says that there was not a time I was not present. The Krishna, you just recognize the Krishna as if the real self is speaking to me. But because the real self is not speaking to me, we give due respect. Oh, it is the Supreme Consciousness is speaking to me. So we can use the metaphor, Krishna is a God who is speaking to me. But that Krishna lives within me. Think in that way. Let us be selfish, get our things done and then leave the Krishna. You cannot leave the Krishna. That is what is our social life is. So be selfish means that you have an intense desire for the freedom. That is why you love Krishna. That is why, because the mind cannot love which has no name in the form in the beginning. Let the time come. So you just feel, Krishna is my real self sitting in me. That is one way. Krishna is sitting in front of me, guiding me, and Krishna is always available to me. Well, let us do that. So that he is saying it was not true at any time. I was not, you were not. There was no time I will not be, you will not me, because we are the real self. We are the pure consciousness. That is what the 12th verse, and then he gives a little diversion in the verse number 13. He says, don't you see that you pass through your infancy, childhood, adulthood, aging? So it is the characteristics of the body. It is not you. You remain the same, present in the body. So what happens? A wise seeker does not allow himself to be disturbed and blinded by the changes in the body. There is something within us that never changes. You should inquire that, you should find that. That is what our Krishna Master is stressing, that you should remember the 6 characteristics of the real self. Real self is eternal. It is beyond time, space, and object, and it is all-pervading. It cannot be objectified. What is objectified will die. What is objectified means it grows. What is objectified means it changes. Every time I'm giving you some new meaning so that the knowledge settles in the intellect, it will trigger the mind to get rid of the RSM syndrome. So then we go to the 14th verse. 14th verse says that then what as if seeker is asking a question, what to do with, I feel the cold and the heat and the pleasure and the pain. Krishna says endure it. It is happening in the body, it is not happening in the real self. That you cannot avoid. You need to endure it. Why to endure it? To get rid of the RSM syndrome, to get rid of the fear of insecurity. That is why you have to endure it. To endure does not mean in Arizona you go out in the afternoon sun and you stay there. Then you are crazy, then you are wiseful. So that is what many people do. They start walking on the fire. And they show it is my spiritual consciousness. It has nothing to do with the spiritual consciousness. It's an ability to body to endure. You have reached to that level. There may not be any chains inside you. So that is why Krishna warns that we should get out of those supernatural powers. It is possible. It happens. You can read the mind of others. You can understand. But if it happens naturally, it is okay. Let it come, because it is happening to help others to become a contributor. But if you are trying to do it, the ego has to support it. And if the ego has to support it, then you go down. You again get back to your RSM syndrome. You lose that ability. I told you the story of great master Ramakrishna Paramhans. One master visited. He was tantra master. So he practiced there are specific practices. He practiced 15 years to get a power to walk on the water. It is 100% possible. So he attained that power. He went to the Ramakrishna, who was the teacher of Swami Vivekananda. He was also one of the greatest enlightened masters ever lived in the recent history, the 200 years. So he went to the Tantra master went to the Ramakrishna, and you see my power, I can walk on the water. So he jumped onto the river in front of him, and he showed him that he can walk on the water. He returned. Do you have that? Do you have the power? Ramakrishna softly said, I can cross the river paying 1 penny. I need not to spend 15 years in acquiring this power. What can be achieved at the material level? Why should I work? Why should I work on that? And then he asked, do you have peace? Because there is another competitor always with you. So now you are feeling guilty, but even if you win over someone, that sense of ego will continue to dominate you. No way. So that is what the Master Krishna, in the 14th verse, that is what he says, endure. This is natural. Endure your cold and the heat, pleasure and the pain, because it gives the clarity to the mind. It helps you to live in a higher awareness when you are attacked, or when you attack someone, when you are attached, or when someone is attached with you. That endurance helps you to rise in awareness. That is what we covered in the 14th verse. In the 15th verse, he uses a simile. Krishna is just a normal, he seems a very ordinary person. I will compare this verse with a bull fight in the spine. They feed that bull and they make it very strong, and the bull fights with others. So he specifically uses, you become the bull among the non-seekers and the people around you. Bull means you become the wise person, very strong in your knowledge, very strong into your self-awareness returns instantly. while living your personal, professional, and social life. So that he equated with bull among the men. Why? Bull is always firm, faces both pain and the pleasure. If someone has insulted you, if someone has praised you, you don't get carried away. That is what the bull means here. So he gives a very beautiful simile and metaphor. That alone, that person alone is fit for realizing the all pervading real self. You are not at all affected. No impression of that RSM syndrome veils the real nature. So once he covers until the 15th verse, then he returns to the same thing. He tells about the nature of the real self in the verse 16. He says, real self? There is no time when the real self does not exist. What it means? It existed in the past, it is still present here and now, it will continue to be present. It will present even the entire world is destroyed in the unmanifest form. The manifest form of the world is the real self. Can I say in a different way? The unmanifest world is the supreme consciousness. You cannot recognize that. Manifest consciousness is this world along with the body, mind, intellect, I as a human being can recognize. What about the false? The false simply does not exist. It appears to exist. We have to recognize. So he comes to that point for a conviction. To have that conviction in our mind, he says, remember. And we covered this again in the last session. Then now on the 7th verse, we will go in detail. In the 7th verse, he says, Avinashi tu tat vidhi yena sarvam idam tatam. Ninasham avyayasya asyana kashchit kartum ahardi. He says this real self and the consciousness is indestructible. That is why it is all pervaded. So we have to find an intellectual understanding. It is indestructible because it is pervaded everywhere. And because of its presence, everything is present in the name and the form. And that is why it is indestructible. You cannot destroy it. It cannot be perished by anyone. It cannot be perished by anyone. What is happening in our life, we give our identity to the doership and the experiencer. Not very difficult to understand, but easy. I am a speaker teaching you, getting the money. No. It is the existence has arranged this meeting. Do I have that understanding? If the consciousness is not there, there is no speaker, there is no listener, there is no seeker, there is nothing. Do I have that level of awareness in all my activities? But if I continue to be a speaker, the speaker will be destroyed after an hour. I start talking to the honey, then I become the husband. So I enjoy as a speaker. That is one set of enjoyment. I enjoy being a husband. That is another set of enjoyment. I was speaking to my son yesterday, so I enjoyed being one. How many eyes you have? And these eyes constantly in conflict with one another. And once they have a conflict in one another, that is another cause of the RSM syndrome. How many doers I have? Maybe more than 10,000 doers every day. They accumulate their impressions. They accumulate the impressions of pain, pleasure, duality. So go back to the earlier verse, endure that pain. Why you endure that pain? Because I want to find out whether there is a pain or the pleasure. So first time in the beginning I endure it. Gradually I recognize it. Oh, what to endure? There is nothing to endure at all. Why I am the pure consciousness, I am the real self. Why I told to endure? I told to endure the false I. I don't want this false I to aggravate any issue in my life. That is why I always try those people who come to me with their problem of a relationship. I said, my first job is to help you recognize that you are already divorced. It is not on the paper. Two individual means two bodies, mind, intellect, ego, with their preferences supported by the RSM syndrome, are already separate. Don't want to separate on the paper. So what happens, the majority of the people, they realize, they say, it's useless. It's useless to fight. With whom I have spent 10 and 15 years or 5 years. And then another question comes. Krishna answers that. What if others do not change? You are still in peace and happiness. Because you are embarking on the journey. Your journey is to express peace and happiness. That is the only problem in our relationship. You are not expecting any happiness. You are a contributor. You are a giver all the time. In spite of other is not. So what happens? You are a contributor of the peace. You are a giver of the peace and happiness, love and wisdom. What happens to the others? Master Krishna says one day other has to melt upon. Their mind will definitely melt. You are not reacting to their attachment and their anger and their agitation. It is simply an empty space. But it cannot be done by those people who are hypocrite. Attitude in the mind must change. Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga. You see how these are linked? That is where the real journey lies. So he is just in the second chapter. We are still understanding the nature of the real self cannot be impacted and affected in any situation. In any situation. In any condition. In any relationship.
Struck me in a big way a few days ago.
As I said, there are 10,000 the false I works every day, consciously, habitually, impulsively, even when we are on the path of becoming a higher seeker. And they reflect in our thought, speech, and action, and it takes a great pain. Sometimes what happens, the false I is adamant, it does not say sorry, it does not want to express, so we become a hypocrite and we continue the journey. It takes a little time, over a length of the time when you are completely, you feel, oh, it's such an easy way to do it. Someone is angry or getting upset, you instantly change your attitude. That instant change comes over a period of time. It's not one day affair. And again, the karma yoga comes. Then when he says it is indestructible and all pervasive, there is another understanding, is that indestructibility is that if the reality is the only thing that exists, there is no second thing at all. Second thing are the effects. I am the effect, you are the effect, the body is the effect, the mind is an effect, a particular journey in the business is an effect, money comes to me is an effect, money lost is an effect. But the ultimate cause is that indestructibility of that real self which is eternal, all pervading, one pure consciousness. Why? It cannot be broken into the parts. If it is not broken into the parts, it means all this falsi are the different parts in different situations. Sometimes it gives me pain and the pleasure. It has nothing to do with me. What is that me? That me is the real self. That me is not the falsi, which relates itself to the others, and then it gets into the cycle of likes and dislikes, joy and the sorrow, pain and the pleasure. You have to do. You will lose nothing. I heard about one master. He was also enlightened almost 300 years ago. I'm not able to recall his name. So, a couple of the faith masters went to him that we will defeat this master. Let us come and discuss. They were great scholars of Sanskrit. So, when you are a scholar of Sanskrit, you build your ego that I have a command on the language. I don't have a command on the language because I'm not a native born. So when those fake masters went to this enlightened masters, why you have come? I want to debate. What you say, peace and happiness are your essential nature. It is not true. So master intuitively recognized why they have come. So he told all the masters, you have come to defeat me? Yes. So please accept my defeat. You need not to argue. You need not to argue anything. I'm already defeated. Declare it. You want to declare in the front of hundreds of people? Yes, declare it. I'm already defeated. So sometimes we find people in relationship, they constantly check you, examine with you, with their RSM syndrome. There we have to follow totally a path of humility. Okay, I need not to teach and educate, I need not to express. We have to be very careful. Why? There is only one real self. The indestructibility of the real self is already proved. So why should I fight? So that living into that state of consciousness is not feeling hurt because my one part of the false I constantly says, look at this guy, he's completely wrong, he's trying to dominate me, he's trying to dictate me. So that sense of I-ness still remains. I know you can easily understand it. Another set of the false I remains, that he is a wrong guy, he is dictating me, I have to push him. Now I have to move into that state of the peace and the happiness, and then I have to see what can be done. Is one of the greatest lessons in the Gita is the Arjuna seeker. Every section, every chapter of this book, Krishna ultimately says, now are you free from the attachment and detachment? So the moment the Arjuna says yes, Krishna says go and fight. Go and fight the war. So that state of the consciousness, when we are awakened, then only that state of the consciousness comes. Because now I experience that there is no meaning of the birth and the death of the body. So Krishna advises you have to stand tall even in front of all the challenges of the life. But until we achieve that state, then we know what can be done. Then spontaneity works. Where is the meaning of the spontaneity? Spontaneity, I would explain that your intellect puts the wisdom in it in a minimum amount of time with the greatest response instantly. And that only can come from the consciousness. Can it happen? Yes, it can happen. Normally, it happens every day. We don't recognize in the presence of the RSM syndrome. That is another great lesson. Now, the 18th verse, I'm going to summarizing these verses, and then we will pick up these verses as we continue the journey. I'll remind you that how these verses apply in the chapter 3, 4, 5, 6, and others. In the chapter, verse number 18, he says that incomprehensible, he puts the deeper understanding that this real self is eternal. It is beyond the time, space, and the objects. And he says you have to understand that. And it is incomprehensible. It cannot be explained in the language used by the mind because every language is limited. Every word is a symbol and the image, and that image we receive from the word outside. Who is man? Who is women? Unless you have that image in the mind, you cannot recognize it. You cannot recognize anything. So the language has to use those symbols, images. So, but when we talk of that real self, it is one consciousness. Even you see that in mathematics we use the word infinity. But that is a symbol, that is not the infinity. In globe we say here is USA. No, that is not USA there. USA is on the globe or the map. So that is why we are using these similes and the metaphors to understand what exactly it means by the real self. It does not mean in the globe there is a USA. In the map there is USA. No. But in our language, we always, look at this. USA is here, Atlantic Ocean is there, Pacific Ocean is there, here's the Canada, here's Alaska. Fact is that there is no Alaska, there is no country in the globe. But we understand, for the sake of understanding, for the sake of, you can say, the intuitive understanding, which the intellect can easily grasp and receive and recognize and realize. Now he makes another statement. If I understand this verse correctly, he said he is using it is eternal and incomprehensible because these two words are antidote to delusion. They are the greatest enemies to any form of a delusion in the world. That is one eternal, all-pervading consciousness of the nature of the peace and happiness, and it is incomprehensible. What is comprehended by my mind because of likes and dislikes, duality and the delusion is basically a delusion. But the language cannot know that. But ego is very hard to accept the new vision of life. Here, that is why this verse is explaining. Ego is very hard, very tough to accept the new vision of the life. Why? Ego says, I want to remain limited and experience the unlimitedness. Not possible. So ego tries hard to live. But in that vision of life, what is the vision of the human life? To experience infinity, to experience a sense of unlimitedness. What happens? I don't have any fear of insecurity. I don't have a fear of dissatisfaction. I don't have any issue about regarding unhappiness. Oh, pain is there, but I am still happy. I know it is body. I'm not there. So I know the power of endurance. So suffering is not there. The pain, I go to the doctor and get the treatment. But I'm clearly understood that body is another part of the delusion which is not affecting me. Body changes, mind changes, the real self not. So he is pointing it is eternal and incomprehensible. Another pointer, he says it is aprameya. Aprameya, it cannot be objectified. Real self cannot be. What it means by objectified? You see what a great contrast in our mind. This is an object, this is made up of the matter. Body is also made of the matter. So when I something different from the body, far from the body, I do not subjectify. Even I can say this is my mouse. But that does not create any pain or the pleasure if the mouse is broken. We are not able to treat the body as an object because of the false I. Any reference, I am. The ego comes behind. Yes, yes, I am here. I am here means why? What? I am the body. I didn't like him, so I was in a particular situation. This is a very, I won't say serious, but not very difficult. Any difficulty can be made easy by understanding. So aprameya. So what happened now? What I said that it cannot be objectified. What we do, body is an object. I subjectify myself. I become the body. I become the mind. I do not become the mouse. I still recognize this is a matter, so it is different and separate from me. But with reference to the body, I always feel unconsciously, habitually, impulsively, instinctively, all are the siblings of the false I. I have understood it clearly that the real self is there, it is all pervading, it is unattached. Where the mind returns with a greater force, you see, you have a pain. You see, you are insulted. You see, you felt a guilt. That is always with reference to the body and the mind. And that false I returns with such a greater force. That means I become the guilt, I become the body, I become the stress. I am not in stress, I become the stress. So instead of objectively seeing the stress, I become the stress means what? I have subjectified the stress. And that is crux of the RSM syndrome. It reaches to such a subtler level. It does not want to leave us. Ego doesn't want to leave us. So that's why we say we have to be a seeker. If we are not a seeker, we cannot recognize. The seeker alone can recognize these movements of the false I and can beat, can destroy. How it can destroy? You recognize it's a part of the delusion. The false I will say, you are dying. Let me die. Can you say calmly, let me die? Like the Maharshi Raman, who lived until 1970. He lay down on the back and he said, let me do the corpse pose. And then he asked the mind what it means by dead person. Oh, dead person means that there should not be any movement in the body. He remained in that state, motionless state of the body for more than 10 hours. He simply lay down. We all, including me, we don't have that level of endurance and the intensity to find the real self. That's why we are following the path step by step. Not possible for us. So clear. He did not have any master. Gradually, he reached to that state. He is recognized as a god in majority of the French people. So there are people, there are masters, who lived into that state. We don't have that intensity. That is why we are learning Gita. to reach to that level of intensity. It is not
I
possible for
remember Osho tells a story like that. I thought, yeah, I don't know if I would have done that when I was a student.
No, not possible, because we did not have that impression we received from the past birth. We were engaged in a lot of attachment and detachment, pleasures and the pain. We were more hyperactive towards our business and the profession. So that was hiding that desire. But that desire was living. That's why we are together. That's why we are together. So you see, that's what happens. People leaves me, I said thank you. People returns me, I said thank you. That's the way. It is the existence will take care of me and you. We don't want to be number one. So in the verse number, so once we are clear that it cannot be objectified, we are clear. So it cannot become the object, and then the master gives a blow to us. It can also not be subject. In the 19th verse, Yahainam vetti hantaram yah chayenam manyate hatam ubhauto na vijanita nayam hanti na hanyate. So with reference to the Arjuna he is prompting the Arjuna to fight the war, but in the state of being settled in the real self. He said, you think you are the doer, you are not the doer. Everything is happening in the existence by chance. I meet you or you met me because of the existence. We are bound to meet, that's why we met. So we are in a healthy conversation. We are learning, we are enjoying this journey. So when we enjoy the journey, it may be a little false I which is taking the credit. After all, I'm learning, I'm understanding. Or your mind says, no, he's a teacher. What about your honey you met and your mind says, I want to divorce and react? You also met because of the existence, why you are reacting there. Why you are reacting? That is also because of the existence to endure. Change your mindset. Did you fail? It will create another problem in your life. It has to create, because the existence has to teach you a lesson. If you don't learn, it will teach you in the next birth. It will teach you in the next birth. You don't have a right, if I use the word divorce in a very general sense. Divorce with the honey, divorce with one person, divorce with the money, divorce with some people. That girl, the Indian woman, she has been the corporate for many years, and she said, what I want to know, what is my life mission? I said, why you have left the job? Do you leave your mind to find the life mission? Nothing to be left. Everything is for a purpose. I have to discover what it is. And she got angry. I could see her face. She did not become angry over me. She left me. No, I will not join you. I said, it's okay. It's a part of the life. I have to be totally naked and true.
Well, I think most people
As if leaving one thing, I will receive something else. This is not the journey of give and take. This is the journey of transcending both give and take and balance the give and take. The journey of the spirit, because it is neither the subject nor the object. And we don't understand that. So majority of the people do not understand, and they continue to fight and struggle, and then their life comes to an end, or they become old. They don't have that power to do that. They don't have those resources to do that. It is not another desire the way we desire a wealth. That is another way to understand the verse number 19. We will again take in detail, but there are a few points. You see the desire to earn a wealth. I need to come in contact with an object, a project, a planning, and the wealth I don't have today, I will have in the future. Pay attention, it's one of the very subtle principles. Now, I desire the real self. So, desire for anything in the world is different from desire for the real self. Desire to earn wealth, desire to have a pleasure, I need to contact an object, that object should agree with me, whether it's a food or a man or a woman, whatever it is. So I have to come in contact with some object, some person outside in the world. That is the desire. That is one way to understand the desire, which I do not have. It will come by contact with some object, some person, some situation, celebration of my birthday, some situation, event, etc., etc., etc. So for that I have to arrange, I have to create an event. Here is the date, here is the time, here are the food, or whatever else. Oh, here I don't have, so let me work hard, let me get the money. So we feel as if all the pleasures, their location is outside in the world. Now come to the desire to know the real self. I have not to do anything outside. I have to start contemplating and reflecting based on these principles. I have to do virtually nothing outside. So those people who understand it clearly, they live into that mode. Desire for the real self is to start contemplation and reflection based on these principles, because I should have something to contemplate. So Krishna says, here is the 6 characteristics of the real self. Come on. Can you think and contemplate and start contemplating? What happens? The journey begins. When the journey begins, anytime, anywhere. Anytime, anywhere? Yes. Why? Real self is everywhere. It is already at hand. It is already at hand. What do you say? It is already at hand. It is already there. Be very clear. And normally it doesn't make the things clear because people will oppose this. If you are not a seeker, you cannot understand that. It does not make a sense.
But your analogy of the curtain and the sunlight is a really good one. I feel like
Desire to know.
The curtain is covering it, but it's there already.
Yeah. So be very clear. We are making the things very clear. Desire to know the real self is to start being. Desire, contemplate, reflect means what? That you are inviting the conscious thought. Means what? You become aware. A desire to earn the wealth, it may go unconsciously, habitually, instinctively, impulsively, with reaction. So we should have that level of awareness.